I wish I could have made it clear that I kind of screwed this up. Like this, all of these indents should be a little bit in. Maybe I'll, just for my own aesthetic pleasure. There we go. Like obviously, hopefully it's obvious in your notes, but like I talk about binding and then I do all this crap for it and then non-binding. Right? That's clear here. Binding, all this crap, non-binding, new thing. Questions, 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 anything, anything, anything. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the data assignment. How's that sound? Um, whoa, makes me look dark. Um, let's talk about the data assignment. So I'll talk about the data
Hello?
assignment. Yeah.
I was wondering, so for like this section about the data assignment, is this intended for people who have already done it or for those who haven't done it? Because I haven't gotten to it yet.
No, that nobody should have done anything with the data assignment yet.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So if you have, I mean, that's fine. But like when I like, yeah, I'm gonna tell. I want to tell you about it. Yeah. Okay. Um, I need to get like a lamp down here or something so that it regulates the light on my face better. Uh, share screen. All right, here we are. So assignments. You go to assignments, here it is, data assignment 1. So let's talk about this. So the data assignments in this class are intended to be something that allows you a little bit more, dare I say, creativity in looking at things that interest you. Okay. So in this first data assignment, what I'm going to have you do, and if you stop me whenever you have a question, okay, is produce a report, okay, and you'll see later the length I'm looking for, which is not long, that addresses whether and why gas prices are higher in the summer. Okay, so we're in the summer soon. So I think this is a good and topical for a summer class. Okay, so apparently in looking at prices, we have a model that explains price determination, which is supply and demand. Okay, so we have a model that's going to explain why prices are higher or lower, and that is supply and demand. So you are going to develop a theory using supply and demand that explains why they're higher in the summer. Okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to collect data, you're going to visualize the data, and you're going to test your theory. Now, nothing here has to be anything that is statistically rigorous. You don't need to have any sort of p-values or regressions. You don't need anything like that. Okay. This is a descriptive exploration. Okay. And you're going to have the final thing you turn in, which is going to be, it's going to be a report. Okay. It's going to have multiple sections. Okay. Introduction, theory, and results, which I'll talk about down here. Okay. So the best way to do this is to start by developing a theory. The people that do great on this assignment always have a strong theory that guides them. The people that do less great on this assignment just start doing random stuff before they have a guiding principle. Okay, you need to have a guiding principle. Whether or not that guiding principle is correct is less important. You just need to have something that guides you. Okay, that is your theory. So the first thing you do is you sit down and you think, okay, draw a graph of supply and demand and think, why are gas prices higher in the summer? Spoiler alert, it's either because demand went up or supply went down. It's one of those two. Could be both. Okay. Now, once you figure out which it is and why it is, that gives you a starting point. Then you collect your data. Now, I say here, at the very least, you need monthly data on gas prices going back several years. Now, as you're going to see, very, very easy to get this. Okay. This will allow you to determine general seasonal trends, which you'll need. Okay. Collect your data from any number of sources that publish data on gas prices in the US. I would strongly recommend you use the gas price data from the US Energy Information Administration. So I think that the US CIA data. Here we go. So you go here. And this is like all of the gas price data you could hope for, right? Here is, they have all these different geographies, right? You could probably just get away with the US one. All of these different geographies that show you the gas prices over time, right? To kind of give ourselves proof that these are legit. Let's go look at what's happening right now. And you can see that in the past 6 months, let's make a quick graph of this. Okay, in the past couple of months, you can see the prices. It's weird. It's not letting me put the chart down here because it's like pinned. But you can see here that if you make a chart, it's increasing over time. It's increasing in the past, couple of months since the war has started in Iran. But in any case, this gives you all the gas price data you would need. Now, let's go back to here. Okay, so that's what you should start with. Now, to test your theory, you're gonna need more data. You're gonna have a theory that says demand goes up because of this, or supply goes down because of this. That is going to inspire another variable for which you can collect data. This is where I want you to be creative and use a little bit of your own skills and interest to pursue what interests you here. Okay, be creative in the additional data sources that you bring in. You may also want to bring in macroeconomic data because we know that inflation affects gas prices over time. Maybe you want to adjust these things for inflation. That's something you could do. Okay, not required, but you could do it. Now, after you collect all your data, it all goes into an Excel document. Okay, now you're going to make all your tables and graphs in that Excel document, and that Excel document is going to get turned in as part of the final project, which we'll talk about in a bit here. Okay. All right. So introduction. So now that's kind of how you start. Now, in terms of the write-up, here's what you do. The introduction, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're providing like a paragraph at the most that says, what's your theory? What are you doing? Set it up. Okay, very simple. Now, the theory section is where you're going to state your theory. Demand goes up because of this, supply goes down because of this in the summer. Okay, whatever it is. Now, as part of this section, you will include a supply and demand graph that visualizes your theory. The supply and demand graph does not need to have actual numbers or numbers from data. It just needs to visualize your theory. In other words, you do exactly like what we've done in the notes, make a graph of supply and demand and show something shifting to show that the price is going to go up because of whatever. Okay, that's the idea. That's the theory section. Now, the results section is going to bring in the data. Okay, so the results section will visualize trends in gas prices and look at the theory you propose. Okay, so you start the results section with a table that summarizes the data you've collected. So by far, this is what people get the most confused about. And it's kind of ironic because this is the simplest part. In economics papers, you always start the paper with a table that tells me a little bit about the data. For each variable that you collect, be it gas prices or something else. Tell me what's the mean of that variable and what's the standard deviation. It just gives the reader a sense of what the data looks like. You don't need to break this down by month. You don't need to do this over time. This is just an overall thing to get the reader comfortable with what your data look like. That's it. Okay. And then you briefly discuss that table. Okay. And this, you'll see I have a checklist at the end that kind of summarizes. Okay. After you provide that table, then you're going to have some visualizations, meaning charts or graphs. So you need to have at least 3 visualizations here. So it's not that many. Okay. And you're going to see that these are very straightforward. So first visualization is a time series graph of gas prices in the US. Okay. So how easy is it to make it? As easy as highlighting this data, going insert recommended chart, and just picking this table. Okay. And there's your, I feel like this is, yeah. And then there is your time series graph. It's really that easy to do. Okay. And then after you make a graph, you always discuss it. You tell me what it depicts. You tell me what are the patterns over time. You pick out prominent features that look interesting. Okay. Now, this is the situation where you may do some background research. Oh, there was a war during at this time, or oh, the Russia-Ukraine war was at this time, which increased gas prices, whatever it is. You may want to bring in some background information. Again, that is where I'm leaving it up to you to use your discretion and creativity and interest to produce something that you like. Okay. Now, in producing this, gas prices rise because of inflation. Maybe adjust them for inflation. That's kind of up to you. Okay. I would suggest it, but I won't mark you down if you don't. Okay. The second visualization will display the seasonality of gas prices. So in this graph, it's going to be a graph that's going to show, okay, so how do I best want to describe this graph? So maybe I'll do this right here. So the first graph, okay, is going to have time right here and gas prices right here. Okay, and then it's going to go, it's going to go like that. This is the time series graph. The second graph showing the seasonality is going to have month right here and average gas price right here. Okay, so month being 1, 2, 6, all the way up to 12. And if you do this correctly, it should look like that, to indicate that gas prices are higher in the summer and lower in the winter. Does everybody see what I mean by that? Yeah, Steve, that's one reason. There's 2 main reasons. That's kind of the big one, right? And so as you'll see, part of your work will be proving, or at least showing support that that is the case. Okay. Do we have to do the whole time from that sheet, or do we just do like 2020 to 2026? So that's a good question, Mackenzie. So let me start by saying, if you can do all the years, do it. If you are overwhelmed by the amount of data, do at least 7, 8 years. I think 20 to 2026 would be like a good minimum. Okay. All right. I'll okay, thank you. Yeah, good. So I can answer, more questions as we go on. Why is this? Oh, that's why. Okay. Third visualization, so these 2 visualizations is kind of like I'm being specific about what I'm looking for. This one, this is where it's really up to you. This is the visualization where you test your theory. Okay. This is where you show me why gas prices are higher in the summer. Steve says people travel more in the summer. This is where you show me. Okay. That's the idea. That's where you're going to have to be creative about getting some data to support that. Okay, that's the idea. Now, so that's the three graphs. The first graph is just kind of describing what gas prices look like over time. The second one is looking at if prices are higher in the summer. The last graph is looking at why. Okay, and then you provide a conclusion. Again, this is not reinventing the wheel. This is literally just being like, here's what I found and blah, 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 blah. Okay. And then you have some references, meaning this is where if you talk about any background information that we didn't talk about in class, you put a source and put it here. Okay. You use an appropriate in-text citation. That can even just be a number that links me to the source that you use, and then list the reference down in this section. I do not care about the format. As you will see in one moment, formatting here is not something I'm concerned about. You can just put a link in the references if you want. I don't care. I'm not, the format does not matter to me. And then you need an AI statement, which I'll talk about that at the end. All right. So submission and formatting requirements. So you are going to submit two things: the report as a PDF or Word document, and this is going to be the final product. It's going to have all your words and all your figures. And in a separate document, you're going to have an Excel file that contains your project data. So in other words, you're going to submit the report and the work. Okay. Now, this is important. All tables and visualizations discussed in the report should be embedded in this file. That simply means that, okay, take a look at this here. See this graph right here? Look at what happens when I click on it. See how this lights up? This tells me that this graph is a reflection of this data. I have this requirement because you can ask ChatGPT to make a graph, and who knows where that data is coming from. It might even make the data up. This is a situation where I can see where your data is coming from here. Okay, that's why I have you do this. Formatting requirements, words, 750 to 1500. I'll be honest with you. I put a word count only because somebody would have told me to if I didn't. The words are not something I really care about. Okay. If you have everything, then that's what I'm looking for. Okay. I just think that 750 is about as low as you can go while getting everything in there. Chances are, if you're going below 750, you're missing something else. But if you finish your report and you have everything and you're at 680, then that's not going to be a deal breaker. Okay. And 1500 is not a strict upper limit. You can go over that. I don't really care. And then formatting, it needs to look professional. I don't care about exactly how that is, but it needs to look good. It needs to be consistent, importantly. Okay. All right, AI. So basically, the AI in this assignment is a free-for-all. You can use it however you want. But here are some guidelines that you need to follow. One, be transparent. So when you have an AI statement, you need to tell me how you use AI. Okay, so that means I used it to assist me in writing, generate ideas, and help me in Excel. Write that. Be honest about how you used it. Now, I say this kind of sounding like a hard ass. I will be checking your submission with CopyLeaks. Basically, the only issue that could arise here is if you write in your AI statement, I did not use AI, and then CopyLeaks says it's 100% AI generated. Then I'm going to be like, okay, what the hell? Why didn't you just say you used AI? See, so how do you solve any potential problems? By just being honest about what you did. That's it. If you say I didn't use AI and CopyLeaks says it's 30% AI generated, I'm not going to care, because that's within the reasonable margin of error for something like CopyLeaks. Okay. Yeah. Remember to provide a list of references. Again, if you say ChatGPT or whatever, why did gas prices go up in 2022? And ChatGPT says, oh, there was a war in Russia and Ukraine, and that put upward pressure on gas prices. Okay. That information did not come from your own brain. And also, it did not come from ChatGPT. It came from some original source that ChatGPT then read it from. So you need to provide the exact source that information came from. Okay. So if ChatGPT gives you a source, provide a legitimate, actual, reputable source for that. Okay. It's very similar to how at one time, when I learned this stuff, it was like never write Wikipedia as a source because Wikipedia just compiles the information. It's the same thing with ChatGPT. Okay. And then the number 3 is the one that is the most important to me. Don't use language beyond what we do in class. Okay. Keep it to what we did in class. As you see in class, my language is very consistent and very, I don't want to say simple, but I don't use any like superfluous language. Okay. You shouldn't either. Keep the language in line with what we do in class. Okay. If you talk about a topic or you talk about something in class that we haven't, or if you talk about something in the report that we didn't talk about in class, it better have a source. Okay. And then make the graphs yourself. This is a checklist that describes everything that I just said and allows you to check off and make sure you're on point. Okay. Now, let me just say that I basically have surveyed every class that I have taught and did these data assignments with. And the consensus is that from start to finish, these data assignments take about 3 to 4 hours of work. That's what I would expect. 3 to 4 hours of work. If you're spending more than that, you're going overboard. Okay. So expect about 3 to 4 hours. All right, now you can drill me with questions. So hit me. Can we use Google Sheets? I am going to say I have no explicit opposition to using Google Sheets, but you may find that some capabilities are limited. That's what I'll say. So if I see that your figures are like Google Sheety, right? You all know what I mean, right? They have that like format to them, that sheen on them, that you can tell they're Google Sheets. Like I'm not gonna care. It's just that you may find that certain capabilities are not there. Now, this is especially problematic. I'm going to say this. This is especially problematic if you've never used a spreadsheet software before. Why? Because if you go into Canvas under modules, down here, I filmed a bunch of tutorials on Excel if you've never used Excel. So here's how to make a line graph. So if you have some data and you want to make a graph over time that shows you gas prices, then you can watch this video where I like talk about it, and I like give you an example of how to do it with all this kind of stuff. This is all Excel based. So if you're using Google Sheets, you're kind of on your own to figure out how to do it. Okay. I'm going to say this. I'm going to be completely honest with my answer to this question. I think you can get away with using Google Sheets on the first data assignment, but there is a 0% chance you can get away with it on the second data assignment. That's my answer to that question. 1% chance you can get away with it on the second data assignment. It would require, you could do it, but it would require a lot of creativity. Okay, let me put it this way. Suppose that, Mackenzie, you are a complete expert in Google Sheets. Okay, then by all means use it. Okay. Because if you're an expert in Google Sheets, then you will know what it's capable of. Yeah. They're not doing anything crazy. But I would like you to use Excel because frankly, you have to download it as an XLSX to submit the Excel sheet anyways. I don't know, whatever. All right, what other questions? Are you prepared to read 20 reports on how McChickens affected the gas prices in the summer? It's interesting, Steve, because that actually brings me to a very good point. Let me answer this somewhat facetious question, which is that data assignment 1 everybody does the same thing. Okay, spoiler alert. If you don't like spoilers, cover your ears. Gas prices are higher in the summer because people travel more in the summer. Shocker. Okay, that's what everybody says. Now, there is a lot of creativity in people showing me that. Okay, that's where it's interesting. But pretty much everyone says the exact same thing in the first data assignment. The second data assignment, every report is different. So this one is indeed a lot more boring to read and grade because everyone says the same thing. The second one is there. I no two. The second data assignment is like a snowflake. There no two are the same. But this one is like a McChicken. They're all equally delicious. I was gonna talk about the rubric. Yeah, so the rubric is basically my guide to grading the thing. So here's the rubric. The rubric is, let me be honest, it's kind of a cover my ass. There's a ton of words, and it basically, the idea here is that there's 4 different things I'm grading on and 5 points per. Okay, so each one is like, so this is like 0, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, right? So I'm grading on 4 things. The first is, do your figures and tables look good? The second is your write-up sensible? The third is, does your report look professional? Okay, and the fourth is your data collection good? You read this at your leisure, but this is how I grade it. Oh my god. I'm actually trying to think in my brain, like, is there going to be a topic that I can't explain with McChickens? I don't know. I don't know. I'll be saddened when there is. I sure hope not. Me too. Me too. What other questions do you have? So I think this is pretty straightforward, right? So I bet you that there are people that are not putting in the chat and they're thinking, yeah, you can turn this in whenever. Due date is August 3rd, basically. Well, not basically, because I'm going to send an announcement like at the end of the semester and be like, you must turn in all work by this day. But for now, it's due when it's done. I like to say that it's due when it's done. I want these to be a good product. Okay. These data assignments are not an assessment. I don't know if, I mean, let's be honest with ourselves here. Anything that's done outside of class is not an assessment. But like, these are not an assessment. I am not grading you on, I want this to be something that you are proud of and that you are happy that you learned something and produced something. Okay, so that means I want you to take time, and I don't want you to see this as like, oh my God, I have to finish this by June 2nd. You know, I want this to be something that you think about and, you know, put care into. Um, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say, damn it, I forget. I was gonna say something. I don't think it was particularly profound. Oh, I was gonna say, I know for a fact that there are people that are not typing in the chat right now. There are 19 people in here. I know there are people on this call that are thinking, this is ridiculous. Why the hell is he making us do this? This is stupid. You know, fair enough. If that's you, then I'm here to help. Again, these are not an assessment. I am more than happy to give feedback before you turn in. I am more than happy to brainstorm on your theory. I am more than happy to point you to data, right? If you have a good theory, but you don't know where to get data for it, I'm happy to help you find that. I'm happy to help you in Excel, definitely, right? It really frustrates me. No, I get this, but a lot of people will sit and stare at Excel and struggle with it, and they won't figure out how to get it to work. Any Excel problem that you have, I'll be able to figure out for you, or at least we'll be able to work together to figure it out in no more than 5 minutes. Okay, so if you're staring for more than 5 minutes at Excel and you don't know what you're doing, you ask me and I'll help you. Okay, this is not, you're not alone. All right. Cool. Anyone got any other questions about anything? Otherwise, basically next week we have elasticity. So new topic next week, elasticity, which we're going to talk about Tuesday and Thursday. Then we'll review on Tuesday, exam on Thursday. Okay. Any other questions? Anyone got good weekend plans? Can we still ask questions about, yeah, you can ask questions about problem sets whenever you want. The only time I won't answer a question about a problem set is when we're past the exam that content was on. So don't ask me about problem set 1 at the end of July. That's bit. Other than that, you can ask me. Now you can privately ask me, like, hey, Owen, can we hop on a Zoom call before class to talk about problem set 1? I was behind, I couldn't get to it. Fine, but like I don't want to spend class time on a problem set that's past the exam. Cool. All right. I hope everyone has a great weekend. And if you have any questions, let me know. Anybody going to see Star Wars this weekend? Yeah. I think Antoinette's yup is for Star Wars. I will be there tomorrow. I would have gone today, but I had to teach you guys about price ceilings and price floors. I debated. I hate not going to a Star Wars movie on opening night. Of course, there's only been what? I mean, in my like era, it's been since Force Awakens that I've this is the first Star Wars movie that I didn't go on Thursday. It's kind of funny because like Force Awakens in 2015, was that 15? Yeah, that was 15. That was like the movie that invented early showtimes, like the midnight on Thursday. It was only after that movie where like Thursday openings for a Friday release were like commonplace. And this is the first time I'm not at the Thursday showings. It's kind of disappointing. Oh, did you like it, Trent? You watched it? Oh, Michael from Michael. Nerd. I'll laugh to that. I don't care. That's funny. I'm waiting for Scary Movie. Yeah, my wife's a huge Scary Movie fan. Well, I'll probably take her to see it. Didn't they do that then stop because of the Dark Knight? I think maybe they did. I don't know. The theater shootings, yeah. I'm waiting. Spider-Man, yeah. I'm a way bigger Star Wars fan than I am a Marvel fan. And the recent Marvel stuff has kind of lost my interest a little bit. So I'm skeptical with Spider-Man. But Star Wars, they can throw crap at me as many times as they want. I'm kind of shameless Star Wars fan. I had a quick question. The first exam is on campus. Yeah, the first exam's on campus at the testing center. If there's some kind of emergency, we'll pivot it to online and it'll be proctored on Honor Lock. Yeah, but all right. Well, everybody have a good weekend. If you're seeing Star Wars, I hope you enjoy it. I guess if you're doing anything else, I hope you enjoy that too, but especially if you're seeing Star Wars. All right. Thanks, Antoinette. We'll see you. Have a great weekend.